Now, today's study, if you notice, you look at the left-hand corner here, is SD 61.16, Sutta Discovery, Volume 61. We celebrate our 20 years, 20 to 22 years of full-time Sutta work. Sutta number 16. And the title is Godhika Sutta, and the prefix is Māra, because there are a number of other Godhika Suttas, and this is, notice here, Māra Saṁyutta. So we put this prefix Māra to disambiguate, meaning to make it more specific, more distinct. We're talking about this particular Godhika Sutta, the Māra Godhika Sutta. Now here you see the traditional numbering, for example, in the Burmese Tipitaka. It is found in Saṁyutta Nikaya, chapter 1 or Vagga 1, which is the Sagata Vagga, the fourth Saṁyutta, which is the Māra Saṁyutta, and the third chapter, or same word, Vagga, third chapter, which is Tatiya means third, Vagga, Sutta 3. So the traditional numbering is S1433. It's a bit quite a mouthful, the traditional numbering. And this is the modern numbering. It has volume 4, page 23. Saṁyutta, volume 4, page 23. This is the Pali book edicted by the Pali Text Society about 100 years ago, beginning 100 years ago.
Okay? Yeah, interruption. Is it Sutta 23 or page 23?
This is Sutta 23, 4.23. The fourth chapter, Sutta 23. Okay, and further down on the top next page, you will see the paging. Okay, it's page 1, volume 1, page 120 to 122. Okay, you can see here. Saṁyutta, chapter 4, Sutta 23. PTS, volume 1, page 120 to 122. Māra Godhika Sutta. All right, so let's go back to the top, the title again, finish off the explanation. Right, so the title is, in English, the Māra Discourse on Godhika. Also called Saṁyutta Godhika Sutta. Right, so some people may refer to this way. Which sutta, which Godhika Sutta? The one in the Saṁyutta. All right, so it's another way to remember it. So what I've done is in our system, we are flexible with the names, because there's so many names used by different people, and Buddhism is all over the world. So you find different parts of the world, they may name the sutta differently. Originally, the suttas were not named anyway. You know, the Buddha just gave talks, and then the suttas get collected, and they were named later, much later. Then we want to know what is it about, right? The theme, and arhat's rebirth consciousness cannot be found. Okay, all right. So now this sutta is quite controversial in a sense. We're talking about this monk who killed himself. So we're talking about suicide, and we're talking about nature of stories. We're talking about Buddhist psychology, the nature of consciousness, and arhathood, things like that, right? So some of these things can be quite difficult to explain. So, I mean, you can explain in a scholarly way and then just forget about it, or maybe just think about it, or we can practice, speak from experience, and understand it with our experience as we practice over the years. One thing about growing old, you find that as you age, the reality of impermanence is on your side, is on our side. So if we keep up being close to the suttas, wisdom will grow in us as we age. We begin to understand things better. As you wake up each day, you find, oh, this is clearer. One of the beautiful things that has happened to me in my senior days, part of my aging process, is my last thought before I sleep, then I say, oh, okay, and my body's tired now, I have to rest it. Let me wake up tomorrow morning fresh so that I can get back to my work. This is my thought. So that there is this sense of purpose. We have this beautiful thing to do the next day. So when I do sutta work and I keep telling the proofers, those who read the proofs, the same thing. It is not something we must do. It is not a task. There's nothing like all those, in modern management, is it what KPMG or something, measuring. There's nothing measuring in the Dharma. It's immeasurable. We work with the suttas because we want to understand it. We want to grow. We want to be happy. And also through fellowship in our gathering here. The suttas bring us together. It's not for everyone. It's not for the crowd. You find that so many people have so many ideas. They think they know everything. And yet you find they have not changed. So the idea of studying the suttas is to feel the peace within us. And we will change over time to be better people, calmer people, more joyful, at peace with ourselves, no matter what the world is like. We are like the eye of the storm. The storm ravages around us, but we are peaceful wherever we go. And with the Dhamma, wherever we go, we spread out this space so that we can hold more people. We hold more people inside this peaceful space. Recently, I saw a very beautiful feedback by one of the funniest actors I know, one of my favorite actors in a way, Jim Carrey. He didn't specifically mention Buddhism, but when someone asked him about kind of what is meaning of life to him, he said that he's nothing. It's like I'm nobody. I'm not Jim Carrey, and things like that. So he was talking about this not self thing, and he was at peace with everything because of this idea. And it was really amazing to hear someone, an actor, could say that. So he has kind of felt something about this not self. And so if you study the sutta, if you know the teachings, you have this sense of not self. You are part of everything and you're connected with everything else. The Dhamma is like that. So we're going to look at this sutta in this way. How do we connect to it? How does sutta connect us with the reality all around us, with life itself? So we're going to look at the story of Godhika. This Godhika is it belonged to the Māra clan. He was the son of one of the Māra chieftains. If you know the Māras, they were present when the Buddha passed away. Yeah, the Māra, they live in northern India. So he was present when the Buddha performed the Twin Wonder, this amazing twin miracle in Kapilavatthu during the Buddha's first visit. So he was sent like some kind of emissary from the Māras to the Sakyas, and then his good karma allowed him to see the Buddha performing this amazing psychic wonder before the Sakyas. The Buddha's idea was to perform this miracle to humble the proud Sakyas who kind of felt they were superior to others and so on. In this meditation, in this psychic wonder, the Buddha makes use of the fire kasina and the water kasina. So it is said that from one pore, a tiny jet of fire comes out, and another pore, jet of water comes out. So this fire and water circulates round and round the Buddha, like an aura around it. And of course, it's colorful. It's a psychic wonder, so it's a mental projection. When we talk about psychic powers, basically it's the power of meditation that is so powerful that it is able to manipulate matter, manipulate things around us. Basically, it's manipulate matter. Now, of course, if you can manipulate matter, you can manipulate space. If you can manipulate space, technically, you can also manipulate time to a certain extent. From my understanding, there is a limit to manipulating time. I mean, you can reshape matter, but time is not so simple. One of the things that the arhats and the Buddha are able to recall his past birth. So that's got to do with time. So they're able to like go back in time with their mind. But that's about it. They can't like travel back in time or go into the future. From my understanding, that doesn't happen because of the nature of time itself, because of impermanence, if you like. So anyway, so that's a very interesting area. I've written about it elsewhere. You can read up in the latest work, like the one I'm working on now in the Tapusa Sutta, Satipatthana, the Nawaka Tapusa Sutta in volume 62, SD 62.16. I'm still working on it. So here we see this Godhika visiting Kapilavatthu, and he sees the Buddha performing this most beautiful, very rare performance of the twin wonder, fire and water coming out of the Buddha's body, surrounding him in a beautiful, radiant aura. And he decides to become a monk. And I mean, people really get enthralled, inspired. If you see this, you feel so joyful. And if your karma is right, you want to go forth, you want to be with the Buddha. But then there are issues. So this is what we're going to look at in his story. Okay, so you find the word Māra is there, so Māra is present. Māra is always present when you want to do something good, right? For example, if you want to come for this study, sometimes you may get lots of distractions, and people may tell you, "Oh, come on, let's do this." You can always go for another sutta class and so on. So that's Māra. So basically, your simply don't play the role of Māra, okay? And Māra is quite real, I mean, he's very active today. He's very successful with so many things around us. And basically, we are easily distracted when we want to do good. So let's look at the sutta now. Māra Godhika Sutta, the Māra Discourse on Godhika, S 4.23. Thus have I heard, at one time the Blessed One was staying in the squirrel's feeding ground in the bamboo grove outside Rājagaha. Let me explain just a couple of things. Now you notice I've used small letters, squirrel's feeding ground, rather than a big S, big F, because I suspect that it is not named. It's not a specific name here. It's a place. So it's descriptive, right? It's saying, okay, this is where the squirrels are fed. So I just put with a normal lowercase letters to show that it is a place, a beautiful place, not just a name people use. So it's not that it is not important, it is important, but if you give a big letter S, it becomes like somebody has defined it, basically. So I feel that it's a natural place, and we keep it simple, small letters. And then bamboo grove also, same, is a grove of bamboo. It's descriptive. So I don't use a big B, big G. Of course, if people use big G, big B, it's still okay. They refer to the bamboo grove, so it doesn't really matter. One thing we should develop is tolerance towards such conventions. Some people use big B's, and people don't. So as long as we know, say, oh, the bamboo grove, we know if you picture in your mind a bamboo grove without any letters, without any language, you know what it is. Bamboo grove outside Rājagaha. But Rājagaha, we put a big R here. But here, notice Rājagaha has no diacritics, but it's better to put diacritics actually. But this is already English Rājagaha, yeah. So this is a place named by the authorities, the king, and so on of those days. Of course, India with a capital I too. So there you are, the Buddha is in this well-known place in the bamboo grove. Now at that time, so it's at the same time as the Buddha was there, the Venerable Godhika was staying at the Black Rock on the Isigili slope. Okay, here again we see this black rock. Some people spell with the big B, big R, right? So it's just the rock is black, so it's called the Black Rock. So that's the main feature of that place. Isigili is a well-known name, so I've kept it with the capital I. It's one of those very strange names. Isi means rishi, seer, and Gili means swallow. Apparently this place swallows up the seers, so to speak. There's a story behind it. You can read that on your own by looking up in the dictionary of Pali proper name, if you like. So this one is, some people translate as Isigili side. This the hillside, okay? And it's a place where it's quite remote, quite peaceful. So this Venerable Godhika was there. Then you begin to see this drama developing, right? So you see 3 to 6 is a kind of a set, right? Then while the Venerable Godhika was dwelling diligent, ardent, and resolute, he reached temporary freedom of mind, but he fell away from that temporary freedom of mind. This is typical language of the oral tradition. So once you see this string of adjectives, diligent, ardent, resolute, you know he's trying to meditate. He's trying to keep his body, speech, and mind all peaceful. And he managed to get into this free state, free of the defilements, free of the what they call this nirvanas, all those things that prevent you from attaining focus in your meditation, the hindrances, right? But then he fell back because he was not healthy. He was doing too much work and he was not well, and he kind of couldn't maintain that focus. So here it's quite clear, we got to balance our life. Enough exercise, enough rest, and then do the practice, right? So same thing with like when I do my work, when I'm tired, I rest. So I don't have to complete the work. I stop where I need rest, right? Of course, I finish at least a paragraph or maybe a section, you know. So then you know your body, your mind can take it, but your body can't. So you respect the body, you take a rest, then you come back the next time. And there is this purpose in coming back with your work, with your meditation, and so on. All right. So here he kept on practicing. He didn't give up. First time he failed. The second time, while the Venerable Godhika was dwelling diligent, ardent, and resolute, he reached temporary freedom of mind, but he fell away from that temporary freedom of mind. So we are not told how long in between. Okay? So we can say days, if you like, weeks. So he kept on doing this, but he kept falling off. So the third time, the same thing happens, right? So he only got temporary freedom, like he reached the path temporarily and then fell back. Fourth time, same thing happened. But here there is a fifth time he tried this. It's one of those rare moments when you go beyond 3, right? Fifth time, he tried again to go into deep meditation. He got that freedom of mind, that focus, and then fell out of it because his health was not good. And then the 6th time, it happened again. So this time you have the tradition of the 7 times, meaning great effort. Now, this time he thought he has practiced 6 times. He says, something's wrong here. I must do something about this. So this is what the next section tells us. Let's look at the next section. 9. The seventh time, while the Venerable Godhika was dwelling delusion, art, and residue, he reached temporary freedom of mind. Then it occurred to the Venerable Godhika, 6 times already I have fallen away from temporary freedom of mind. Let me use the knife. Okay, this is the controversial part. He is very determined. He says, all right, now what I'm going to do is that I'm giving like a commentary. When he's going to program himself, his mind, because all these things happen in split second, very fast. When he reaches this freedom of mind, he's going to cut his throat, he's going to kill himself, and he will die in that state. And if he dies in that awakened state, there's no more rebirth. I mean, it's amazing strategy, very controversial. So, of course, you have problems here, see? Some people, we call them pedants and purists, they will say, wow, this sutta is condoning suicide. You know? Of course, they're all from personal views. So my approach is, let me not have any opinions. Let me see what the sutta says. What is the sutta trying to teach us? What really is the sutta telling us? The sutta doesn't say suicide is all right. Just take it as it is. The sutta says this monk failed after 6 times to get awakening, and he's determined not to fail the 7th time, and even if it takes his life, right? And you know, in Singapore, we have this slang, we say, die, die must do. So here you see this, really this actual event taking place. And I find the suttas can be amazing. Some of those things which are slang that we often just say very naturally and freely, actually are being explained in the suttas. So this monk actually is not afraid to die because he's going to be enlightened, he's going to be awakened, he's not going to be reborn anymore. So you call it suicide, but to him it's awakening. It's no more rebirth. It is a unique case, a special case, it's Godhika's case. It is not saying that everyone should do it. So we can interpret this as saying the arhats are very courageous and brave, and they'll do anything to gain that state. This is one of those unique teachings. Right? Of course, there is this purist, there is this pedant in the form of Māra. Now, he is that busybody who delights in failure. When you can't meditate, when you don't want to meditate, when you don't want to come for sutta studies, he's very happy. Right? So he's the one. Section 11. Then Māra, the evil one, having known with his mind the reflection in the Venerable Godhika's mind, approached the Blessed One and addressed him with these verses. Okay, now you see this Māra appearing to the Buddha, probably in some presentable form, and praising the Buddha in so many ways, and telling the Buddha to say, hey, you got to stop this monk, from killing himself. Okay, let's see what happens next. Further down. Right, so you see, he speaks of the Buddha in 3 verses. Okay, the 3 verses recorded in the Saṁyutta Nikaya as 490 to 492. O great hero, great in wisdom, blazing forth with power and glory, I worship your feet, O one with vision, who has overcome all enmity and fear. Right, that's the sweet mouth, sweet tongue of Māra. Okay, he's praising the Buddha. Next, he says, O great hero, who has vanquished death, your disciple is longing for death. He intends to take his own life. Okay, so in Pali, it's just akankati cetayati. Okay, he intends to take his own life. Restrain him from this, O luminous one, bright one. Then stop him. O Blessed One, can your disciple, one delighting in the teaching, a trainee who has not attained perfection, take his own life, all widely famed? Right? So he's saying, oh, look, this monk is going to kill himself, you should stop him, you see. Now, you got to picture this as something going on at the same time, right? This is the beauty of sutta storytelling. So Māra is saying this at the same time. Godhika is going to put out the light in his life and see this true light, all the light you cannot see, right? Now, on that occasion, the Venerable Godhika had just used the knife. Notice, had just used the knife. So Māra missed this point. Māra couldn't see the arhat because he's not awakened. Māra is not awakened. Godhika already killed himself. He's already an arhat. But Māra rushed to the Buddha too late, telling the Buddha, you got to stop him, you got to stop him. Okay? So, all right. So what happens now? What does the Buddha say? Okay, as usual, this is a cliffhanger. So we just stop here for a few minutes. Now we come to the second part of our study that is going to close with a mystery, something very interesting, which is rarely discussed about Māra. Okay, so let's look at the Buddha's reply. So the sutta tells us in section, let me see now. Okay, 13, right? We continue with 13. Then the Blessed One, having understood this is Māra, the evil one, address him in verse. Okay, just make a note here. So notice the Buddha also replies in verse. Ewang hi dira kubbanti nawa kankati jivitang samulang tanhang abuiha godiko parinibbuto ti. Such indeed is the steadfast act. They are not attached to life. They here are the arhats. No? Having drawn out craving with its roots, Godhika has attained final nirvana. Okay, this verse again, we have to be careful because some people may misconstrue it and say, oh, okay, S493 shows that the Buddha condones suicide. Not so, okay? The Buddha is simply saying the arhats are not attached to life. They're not afraid to die. Now, that's different from saying suicide is all right. Far, far different, okay? So the Buddha is simply reflecting this particular situation where Godhika is struggling, having great difficulties. And now he's free. He's attained final nirvana. Then the Blessed One addressed the monks thus. Okay, now so Māra has kind of like, he's standing at the side, still is very disappointed. Now he's going to be mentioned again at the end of this sutta, but here, meantime, the Buddha is telling the monks what really happened. Notice here the Buddha doesn't tell Māra, he tells the monk, because he wants us to know. Then the Blessed One addressed the monks thus. Come, bhikshus, let us go to the black rock on Isigili slope, where the clansman Godhika has used the knife. Now, this word clansman is often used, no? Meaning this person comes from a noble family and he has become a renunciate or renunciant. He's become a monk, all right? Yes, Bhante, those monks replied. Then the Blessed One, together with a number of monks, went to the black rock on the Isigili slope. So you picture the Buddha walking towards this area where Godhika is. The Blessed One saw in the distance the venerable Godhika, lying on the bed with his shoulder twisted. Why shoulder twisted? Because he was cutting his own throat just before, just after his awakening. All right. Let's go further down. 17, section 17. Now, on that occasion, okay, so now something dramatic happens. On that occasion, a cloud of smoke, a swirl of darkness, was moving to the east, then to the west, then to the north, then to the south, upwards, downwards, and to the intermediate quarters. So in the sky, in the distance, there's this like a black cloud moving all over the place, looking for something. He is looking for something. Then the Blessed One addressed the monks thus: do you see, bhikshus, that cloud of smoke, that swirl of darkness moving to the east and to the west, to the north, to the south, upwards, downwards, and to the intermediate quarters? Oh, yes, Bhante. The monks replied. Now here notice the way the Indians address their directions. It always starts with the east. Why? Because the Indians had no compass like in China, so they get the directions by the early morning sun. They face the east, so they start with the east, and the east also is a very pleasant quarter, because when you sit there in meditation under a tree, it can be quite cold. Then the sun rises up slowly and it shines on you, and you feel quite warm. Okay, and then if you look that way, then behind you is the west, and then the north on the left and the south on the right, then up and down. So these are the 6 quarters. Then you have the intermediate in between. Okay. Then, okay, the Buddha says, do you see that cloud moving around? And the monk says, yes, Bhante. 19. That bhikshus is Māra, the evil one, searching for the consciousness of the clansman's Godhika, wondering, where now has the consciousness of the clansman Godhika been established? So where is this monk reborn? Where is he? So Māra is one who delights in babies when they're reborn. Okay, so they say, oh, I got another citizen. Okay. However, bhikshus with consciousness unestablished. This is a very important phrase, so I'll underline it. Consciousness unestablished. The clansman Godhika has attained final nirvana. Okay, this is quite a simple, direct sentence, but it has created a bit of difficulties for people. Well, maybe I should say some people have created problems for themselves with this verse. Consciousness unestablished. It's just a sentence, meaning this Godhika has become an arhat. He is not reborn. His consciousness has found no footing anywhere. But some people say, oh, okay, the Buddha mentioned consciousness. So there is this consciousness which is unestablished. That means there is this consciousness that is unestablished. Because there was a monk in the sutta who has this wrong idea. I think Sati, he says, oh, where is this staff or soul which is not established? Right? But that is wrong grammar, bad grammar. Okay. Here simply is a way of talking that the person is not reborn. He become an arhat. There's no more consciousness. So it is said to be unestablished. It is not reborn, basically. So now we come to this very interesting part, all right? The mystery I was telling you about. So Māra now comes back to see the Buddha, okay? Then Māra, the evil one, taking a lute of yellow bilwa wood. If you're from India, you probably know what bilwa exactly is. It's kind of yellow color wood. And this lute is made of this wood. So approach the Blessed One and address him in verse. So why is Māra holding this lute? Well, we don't know. So It's a musical instrument, so I suppose you can say it represents Māra's tendency to bring pleasure to people or make people want to distract them, or it is a symbol of his status and power. The many possibilities. So he was having this lute with him, and of course we're talking about a non-human here. So he's like a huge figure, and this lute is quite big. And of course, he can assume any size, he can look anyhow he wants. So now he comes to the Buddha and says, above, below, and across in the four quarters and in between, I've been searching but find not where Godhika has gone. So he's complaining to the Buddha. I say, I can't find this Godhika. Where is he? Right? So the Buddha replies, Sodiro diti sampanno jai jhana rato sada ahoratang anuyunjang jivitang anikamayang. That steadfast man was resolute, a meditator, always rejoicing in meditation, applying himself day and night without attachment even to life. So I struggle 6 times. Yes, Godhika, without attachment even to life. Having conquered the army of death, not returning to renewed existence. Having drawn out craving with its roots, Godhika has attained final nirvana. Final nirvana. Why final nirvana? There are 2 nirvanas. There's first nirvana, the nirvana with remains, and the second nirvana, nirvana without remains. When the Buddha was awakened under the Bodhi tree, that is called the nirvana with remains, the first nirvana. Okay, and then he lives on 45 years. Then finally passes away. That's the final nirvana. All right. So Māra is told this, and how does Māra react? And this part is closest to the sutta further down. Let's go down a bit more, please. So here again, the sutta closes with a verse. Now, this particular verse is inserted by the council elders, by those who put the sutta together. Tassa soka paritassa vina kacha abasata tato dummano yakho tatteva antaradaya tati. Okay. I think there's a typo here. It should be T-A-T-H. I think this one, MS Word, switch the H around. Because that is more common in English. It's one of those automatic correction which actually creates an error. So I will correct this later. All right, so here the elders are just kind of helping us to close the story. It says, oh, this Māra was really saddened and disappointed, and it's like throw his hands in the air, if you like, and then his lute dropped from his armpit and he didn't know it. He didn't realize it. Then the disappointed yaksha, he's called yaksha, just a name for a spirit, and he disappeared right there and then. Okay, this is the line, Vina kacha abasata. Okay, we just caused some problems because some people are wondering, is it really this word, or how does this fit in? Where did this story come from? And so on, okay? So here we have the psychology of stories. We have Māra acts as a kind of antagonist to, because we're talking about a drama. Yes, this is a very important event. And the sutta storytellers or sutta collectors are trying to present to the Indian audience this really interesting drama. So you have this monk who's struggling with awakening, and then he kills himself, and then Māra comes and says, hey, we must stop this monk. And then the Buddha's saying, well, he's already an arhat, he's not going to be reborn. He's not in Māra's power anymore. And then Māra is very disappointed. And then he drops his insignia, if you like, his status symbol. What's interesting is that there's a story behind this this lute, which I recall. The lute didn't just remain there, because remember, it came from Māra, Apparently, Sakra, who was also watching the situation in the background quietly, he took away this lute. So you see this like a Greek story. So he takes this to say, okay, it's mine now, something like that. So he takes this lute away and he gives it to Panchasika, the heavenly musician, who uses it to entertain the devas. Okay, there is a dark hint here, that the lute represents Māra. So even the devas of the sense world are still under Māra's influence. So you have to be very careful, right? So it's a hint here. But of course, we can see this story on the bright side. Māra is a stream winner, and he's the good guy. And he's very happy. He said, oh, good for us, this Māra has given up, and why waste this beautiful instrument, because he's a god of the sense world, Sakra, So he takes this lute, this guitar, if you like, in modern word, guitar, and gives it to the heavenly musicians so they can entertain the gods. When the good karma in Tavatingsa and the four, the realm of the four great kings, all right? So that's the story. There's a bit of note at the bottom, since of time, I just want to mention to you. So there are scholars who think that, maybe this word vina kacha abhasata is not correct, Here vina, it means the lute, kacha armpit, and abhasata, far from the armpit, right? So they found that there is a similar reference to this story in a Sanskrit source called Mahavastu. But there, unfortunately, the Sanskrit is not clear also. There are, we say the reading is corrupted, so different editors are trying to make out what is the original reading, because it's lost. They have to reconstruct it. So the best reconstruction I found is in Sena's own edition of the what they call Mahavastu, which done over a century ago also. And it's very similar, actually. The Sanskrit sounds as vina kachatosra. Okay, this is Sanskrit. It's a bit difficult to pronounce. Something like, if you lengthen the vowel, osrita. Osrita meaning fallen down or to sleep off also. So you find actually it's a similar event, really, whether it's Pali or Sanskrit. So this story has been there even in the Saṁyutta Nikaya. So it is an ancient story, all right? So before I close, just a quick note on stories. Now, you don't have to believe stories. Stories are there partly to entertain us, partly to remind us of good things in life. Of course, bad things also, which we should avoid. And there are many stories in all religions. So we don't have to believe the stories are true, but we have to understand what they're trying to tell us. They're trying to teach us about the 3 negative roots, which are to be avoided, the 3 wholesome roots, which are to be practiced. So these activities are dramatized through stories. We love watching movies. We love watching Star Wars and so on. And only recently, I watched this show called this beautiful award-winning book from the award-winning book called All the Light You Cannot See. It's a very beautiful story about the closing of World War II, where you have a young French girl who is blind. She's the heroine, who is determined to who loves her country, and she loves learning. She was listening to the radio to this professor, mysterious professor, talking about science and so on. Since she was very young, and even through the war, she was listening to this broadcast. But during the German occupation of France, all this transmission are not allowed, and you'll be shot on the spot just for doing that. And then on the other side, in Germany, there is this German boy who's an orphan, and he's unique in a sense. He doesn't want to follow the Nazi ideology, and he's also listening to the same radio broadcasts by this mysterious professor about science and all the light you cannot see. That's the title of the book. Okay, and to cut a long story short, you find this German boy with a German ideology, or rather who is open to German ideology but rejects it, and this blind French girl Marie meeting together. All right, and then you find there's a difference between the book and the movie. In the book, the boy, the German boy Werner, he got captured by the Americans when they took over France, and then he, in the delirious fever, he ran out of the camp and stepped on the German mine and killed himself. It's a very sad ending, which won't work in a movie. So in the movie, they didn't show that part. They actually showed the boy and the girl meeting together and becoming friends. So people are happy with that kind of ending. So you find in stories, there's always this idea of wanting to be happy, of learning about good and so on. So remember, you don't have to believe in a story, but you should at least be inspired by what the story is trying to tell us, that we should try to be good, all right? So that's why the Buddha has this special, very short sutta in the Anguttara about niyata, neyata and nitata sutta, about when you look at a sutta, you should see which part has to be drawn out, has to be explained, and which part is already clear by itself. The part which is clear by itself, of course, talks about the Dharma directly, the three roots and so on. Whereas the other would be sort of stories, which you don't have to believe, but it's nice to know, nice to listen. I mean, we don't live by the stories in that sense, right? But we live by the teachings. So the stories are very entertaining, and our children love stories, and we tell them stories. And as they grow older, as they understand better, we tell them the meaning of the stories. So don't worry if sometimes you find some aspects of the stories can be quite dramatic, quite fantastic even. The idea is to highlight, to dramatize this very important event that the Buddha is talking about or referring to. On that note, we'll close this study. We got about 20 minutes for questions.
Thank you, Piya, for the teaching. Now is our Q&A. There are 3 questions from Sister Willing. The first one is based on Sutta. Is there any mention the duration of freedom of mind needed to ensure one attains the path and fruition?
Wow, that's a tough question. I can answer from what I read in the suttas. Well, I suppose in the great arhats, it's just a moment. You have stories of, for example, Bahiya listening to the Buddha, and then zap, he gets it, he becomes an arhat. So because he has been going through many lives before, studying suttas, meeting the other Buddhas, right? So he hears something familiar, and everything comes together, fall into place, and that's it. He's very happy. So it might take a moment, it might take a bit longer. Sometimes it happens in retrospect. In other words, later on when you are doing something, washing dishes, maybe as you're washing, and then zap, you get it. So the timing is really hard to say. You can't say, okay, it's going to be this long. It can take some time, or it can be immediate. The quality of the Dharma says akaliko, nothing to do with time. It says sanditiko, what is here right before you, right? So it can be seen right here and now. So the Dharma is like that. It depends on the person. For us who are still unawakened, we study the suttas, it guides us. There are already some really good teachings there. And we just keep following it for as long as we can. And as we age, you begin to see things coming together. You feel at peace with yourself, and you just don't find anything, good in other. I mean, you're just not attracted to other systems that believe in all kinds of fantastic ideas. You're quite happy with the teaching. It guides you. It keeps you seeing meaning in life, and you're happy for yourself. And because you're happy for yourself, you also show that happiness to others. People can see that joy and peace in you, and that's a wonderful gift you can give others. Okay, and that's what we're doing. When we go to all these active aging centers, we see people are suffering, people are lonely. There are a lot of interpersonal weaknesses. So we're trying to befriend people who are lonely, who have difficulties, and we're just there for them. And we do the little things that we can for them. So that's what practicing Dharma, living Dharma is about. Okay?
Okay, thank you for the answer. Next question from Sister Firin also. Is freedom of mind released by wisdom easier to attain compared to both were liberated? What is major training
Yeah.
to ensure on the right track, especially during meditation practice and freedom of mind?
The great arhats of the Buddha's time, the 80 great elders, for example, I think they all both awakened or liberated both ways, in the sense that they are liberated by samatha. They attain up to at least four jhanas, and so they have psychic powers because of their mind is very well controlled, and they also have awakened through wisdom. In other words, their mind is clear about true reality. Now, the simple way is to basically what in modern times we say vipassana. So we understand nature of impermanence, nature of suffering, and perhaps non-self. Non-self is a bit difficult. If you can understand the nature of impermanence, that is good. It will bring you stream winning. And once you are a stream winner, you're already in, just a matter of time, you're on the way. Right? So don't worry too much about arhathood. Aim for the path, stream winning in this life. Try to see impermanence around you, inside you, and accept it, understand it. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Next question by Sister Firin.
All right.
What is the significance of the lute drop from the armpit? Does that mean each time Māra lost to distract the practitioner, the lute would drop from armpit?
In this case, I think, because it's the only place where this is mentioned, because someone has become an arhat, and Māra could not prevent this monk from that. So Māra was disappointed in that way, right? And the dropping of the lute is to dramatize it, to show like Māra just simply got very upset, and he even became self-forgetful, in other words. So, evil is not perfect in that sense. And it basically is a story to make the teaching the Dharma interesting. And the ancient Indian love stories. We today also love stories. And then you begin to see this connection with Sakra and so on. And it makes Buddhist mythology, Buddhist stories very interesting. So when we talk about mythology, they are not just false stories, they are psychological stories which reflect some very powerful feelings and tendencies in our lives. Okay. All right, please turn on your video so that Ratna can take a photo of you, photo of the family. All right, yes, any other closing questions?
This one from Sister Lucy.
All right.
The one be liberated by mere contemplation. If yes, how and what to contemplate?
Well, The easiest answer, of course, is to reflect on impermanence, on how things change, they become other, they're never what we expect them to be. It's a shorthand, it's a simple term for suffering, actually, because there is impermanence, there is suffering. We tend to expect a lot of things from this and that without knowing that things are uncertain, things will change. All right. So the idea is, what do we learn from this impermanence? What do we learn from this change? How do we act in its way? How can our life change through understanding impermanence? So the idea of studying suttas is to change our lives, to become better people, not to tell people, oh, I know this, I know that. It's not about knowing. The scholars know a lot of things, but I don't think they are awakened. I mean, if that's the case, then you can go to universities and get awakened. That's a great way to do so. So it is something that we reflect on in our own lives and in the lives of others, and we connect with them. Impermanence is what helps us to understand other people. We're all in the same boat, called samsara. Okay. Any other question before we close?
Brother Piya, I would like to ask one.
All right. Yes, Mayang.
What's the difference between the first two fetters before stream entry?
First two fetters.
Yes.
Yeah.
The difference. What's the difference?
Oh, you mean the first fetter, sensual
Self.
desire, ill will. These two?
No. Self-identity view is first, right?
Oh,
Sakai.
sorry. Yeah, self-identity
And
view.
doubt is the second one.
Second one is?
Doubt. I don't know whether it is
doubt.
self-doubt
Okay.
or spiritual doubt, but doubt.
Okay, sure.
So
So
I
you're
want
you're comparing these two. Self-identity view in a simple way is, we think that there is this self. Some people, for example, I've heard before, people who like to smoke, and then you tell them to stop smoking because it's dangerous and so on and so forth. And then they will tell you, oh, this is my body, I can do what I like with it. So my favorite answer is, I'm sorry, it's not your body. We don't own our bodies. The doctors take care of our bodies. If you're sick, you can't heal yourself. You need doctors. And the worst part is, if you are to drop dead right here, we have to take care of your body. So if it's your body, why can't you take care of your body yourself? So we are all interconnected with other people. So there's no such thing as saying this is my body. It is our body, yes. And so this idea of self-identity view is, people tend to wrongly connect with the body, say my body, all right, and then they think they can do what they like. Or some people relate or identify with any of the 5 aggregates. They can connect with the perception, the way they see things, recognize things, or with their karma, or with their consciousness. Very common, of course, is consciousness, the soul, and so on, right? And or with feelings. So you're hurting my feelings. See, because when you say my feelings, that's why you're hurt. So they're just feelings. So in other words, this first advice the Buddha gives us is, don't identify with any of the aggregates: body, feelings, perception, formation, consciousness. They're all changing all the time. Changing. Doubt is more to do with, I don't know something, the simplest doubt, because I don't know something. That is why we study the suttas. That is why we want to find out what's going on. And a very important aspect of doubt is to remind ourselves that whatever we know is always borrowed, always comes second-hand, third-hand, fourth-hand. It's not the final thing. The final thing is awakening. Whatever we know is always subject to change. Whatever we know is provisional. You notice, I notice in my life, after 50 years, I say 50 years is 50 years ago. Let's say I started around late teens, so it's about 55 years maybe. That my views change, because it becomes clearer. Right? Knowledge is like that. You know something, and then you know something else. Then the something else refines and clarifies what you already know. Right? So that's how you grow in knowledge. Otherwise, you're a baby stuck with certain idea. That's it. That's all you know. And some people think that's the way, without realizing knowledge must change. That is why we also don't follow teachings of gurus, because if you follow the teaching of gurus instead of the Dharma, these gurus themselves, will be wrong. Scholars themselves will admit, oh, I've changed my view about this because they found out that there are other ways of looking at it. So we keep on seeking, we keep on seeing, and our wisdom grows. With knowledge, when you let go of knowledge, you get wisdom growing like that. So it's okay to doubt. Doubting, but you cannot stop with doubt. You have to let go of doubt, let go of doubt. That is, doubt is mentioned. Because some people stop with doubt. They say, oh, I don't know. Oh, I'm not clever. I can't study suttas. But that is a resigned way. That is you going back to the zoo as an animal, when you don't have to be. You can come out happy as a divine being with loving kindness and so on. So you can evolve into a better being. So why fall back, right? So doubt is not good in that sense. Doubt means to give up, to not sure, to be unsure of yourself. Then how are you going to be awakened? Of course, other religious people will love you, those gurus, because you put yourself in their hands. That's not good at all. Okay? Is that clear enough?
Yeah, thank you for the.
All right, so time's up.
you.
No more urgent questions.
Yeah, there's no more question in the chat.
All right. Okay, let us
So
now.
we end the class.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, once again, let us spend this wonderful moment reflecting on its significance. We gathered together from different parts of the world to see ourselves in the sutta, to learn more about ourselves, so that we become happier people with greater wisdom. So this is a time with your calm and clear mind, your joyful mind. Send your thoughts of loving kindness and good wishes to your loved ones, people who are important to you, people with whom you have difficulties. This is the time. Send your thoughts to them as if you're talking to them. Wish them well and happy, and so on, all the good things. This is the moment. And I want you to be happy also, to grow in wisdom. And we close by our traditional triple salutation, the three salutations to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.